If you've been to Disney World lately, I would bet money that you have asked yourself, why did Disney do this to us? I'm a former Walt Disney World cast member, and I'm going to tell you today why Genie Plus happened. Let's go. Today we are going to talk about how and why Disney went from FastPass to the paid Genie Plus service while dropping in a few Genie Plus tips and tricks along the way. To break down why Genie Plus happened, we are going to have to understand the full history of Disney, Disney FastPass, and Disney FastPass Plus to understand how we got from point A to point B. And let me tell you, this part's going to be a doozy. There's a lot to learn, so let's take a seat for a second, shall we? Alright, so first let's start with what was FastPass at all. So it was introduced all the way back in 1999, and it was Disney's first ever skip the line service. The way it would work is it's actually kind of similar to Genie Plus's rules now. You could grab your first FastPass that day when you're in the park. You could not do it in advance, and guests would rope drop, still their favorite parks, and then they would run to their favorite rides, and they would put in their park ticket, their physical park ticket, and they would receive back a paper FastPass that would tell them their return time to come back when they could skip the line. So initially, Disney had it where guests could only grab one paper FastPass at a time, and then once they utilized that one, then they could go get another one. That was an issue because what if you rope dropped late and your first FastPass was not until 6 p.m. that night or whatever time? So guests had some issues with that, so that's when Disney updated the rules and you could grab one every 2 hours, or if you used one before, just like Genie Plus. The thing that really matters here is that this was a free system that lasted until 2014 when they updated it to FastPass Plus. So that brings us to what was FastPass Plus. What were the differences between FastPass and FastPass Plus? So FastPass Plus rolled out in 2014, and so this was an updated version of FastPass, which was that skip the line service. So what was the difference? FastPass Plus was only available at Walt Disney World. It was not available at Disneyland. Disneyland was still using that original FastPass service, and then eventually they would update to something called the Max Pass, but Walt Disney World never got that, so we're not gonna get into it for now. The main thing is that this significantly changed the system. I mean, it was like an overhaul of what FastPass had been originally. So what was the biggest difference? Well, now guests could do all of this in advance. Guests could make 3 FastPasses up to 60 days in advance if they were staying on Disney property. If you were staying off of Disney property, you could make them 30 days in advance, but that was something that Disney added to kind of incentivize staying on property. Also, you would no longer had paper FastPasses. They cut that part out. Now you made your FastPasses on your phone or on your computer, kind of like how we use Genie Plus now. The difference also was that once you started using those FastPasses day of, once you used your first 3, you could then go through and make another 3. But the same issue applied where if you didn't get one until later in the day, you were stuck and you couldn't make any more until the end of the day or till the end of that FastPass window. The biggest difference that guests noticed, and some guests appreciated and some guests was not, was how advanced the system was. And advanced in the terms of you could do it before your trip. People really liked that, or people really hated it. It meant that if you knew anything about the system, you were good to go. You knew how to use it, and you knew that you could get what you wanted. But it did mean that if you didn't know about it until your trip started, well, you already missed out. You're probably not gonna get the big rides FastPasses. They probably were gone 60 days ago. But what the most important part of all of this is that it was still a free system. Okay, emphasis on free. Now that brings us to the current times, the most controversial times, if you will, and that is Genie Plus. So Genie Plus started in October of 2021, and it is the current skip the line service. What's different is that Genie now has multiple tiers. So FastPass and FastPass Plus were pretty much one tier, everybody used it the same way. Now Genie has 3 different tiers. So first, there's the free Genie. There is still a free aspect to this one, but it's significantly different. So free Genie, you get to utilize what they're calling the tip board. So that is where Disney suggests things for you to do. They suggest when you get in line, they suggest where you should eat or when you should mobile order, different suggestions, but you're not paying for it. So you can utilize or you don't have to. That's up to you. The second tier is Genie Plus. So that's the main thing that we're talking about today, is that Genie Plus tier. Genie Plus starts at $15 a day and can vary all the way up to $30 per person per day. It's all based on date-based pricing. So if the parks are more busy, it's gonna be up to that $30, but if the parks are pretty chill, it's gonna be that $15 a day. So that does not give you access to all of the lightning lanes in Walt Disney World, although it does give you access to most of them. The rules for this one is that you can make a new lightning lane reservation every 2 hours, or you can make a lightning lane reservation after you've used that one if it was not in that 2-hour cooldown. Finally, there's the third level of Genie, which is the individual lightning lane tier. So that is in every single park, there is one individual lightning lane that you have to purchase outside of Genie Plus. That is an additional $15+ per person per day. That's a lot of money, and a lot of people don't understand it. And that's what we do. Like, that's all AllEars is pretty much teaching you guys how to utilize Genie Plus. And then of course there's vacation planning, but Genie Plus currently I think is one of the hardest things to understand in Disney World. One thing a lot of guests need to realize, if you don't already know, you will not know what you're gonna pay for Genie Plus until that day. So you can budget $15 and it might be $30. You're not sure. I always recommend for people to budget for the highest, so that way if that's what it is, you're gonna pay that. But if it's not, you get a little bit of extra money back in your pocket. So for Genie Plus, you can book your first lightning lane starting at 7 a.m. on the day of your trip. Resort guests can book their first individual lightning lane starting at 7 a.m. as well. For guests who are not staying on Disney property, you can book your first individual lightning lane when the park opens that day. Guests can also hold 2 individual lightning lanes per day. So if you want to go do Flight of Passage and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, you can do that, but you can't buy a third one. Genie Plus also recently updated to make their system a little bit more easy to use, in my opinion. So in the past, when you wanted to change your lightning lane time or update it, you had to watch the app, you had to scroll, and if you saw a better time than what you had to quickly cancel your original reservation, scroll back to that initial screen, and grab that new time. A lot of times that was a really big gamble because somebody else could grab it in the process of you trying to cancel and then go back. But now Disney has updated it. So if you see a better lightning lane time or one that's more suited to your trip, you can scroll through your phone, select that new time, and simultaneously the app will cancel your old time and give you that updated time, which in my opinion has made the system a lot better than it was. One difference between Walt Disney World and Disneyland is that Disneyland, once you purchase Genie Plus, that now includes your FastPass photos in it as well. So if you pay for Genie Plus one day, all of your photos from that day you now get to download, and you don't have to buy FastPass for an additional fee. That is supposed to be coming to Walt Disney World in the coming months, according to Disney. So all of that might seem like a lot, and that's because a little bit it is. But the most important thing to understand through that whole spiel is Genie Plus is here to stay for this foreseeable future. So because it's here to stay for the foreseeable future, we want to make sure that you know how to utilize Genie Plus. So here are some of our top tips for you to have some sneaky Genie secrets. Number 1, we think that buying Genie Plus at midnight can help reduce stress in the morning. The Genie windows start at midnight and can only be purchased day of. So you can purchase it at midnight on the day of your trip, or you can purchase it in the morning if you don't want to wait up all night. However, you need to purchase it before 7 a.m. so you can book that first lightning lane without worrying about it starting at 7. 2, you can use a rope drop strategy to ride popular rides with no wait twice. If you rope drop a ride and get a Genie Plus lightning lane for it later, you'll be able to ride your favorite rides twice with low waits. Great examples of this are Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster over in Hollywood Studios. If times are not ideal, go ahead and book that lightning lane, but don't exit out just yet. You can continue to refresh and then use Genie's new feature where you can book a new lightning lane and cancel your old one at the same time. This way you don't have to gamble and you're guaranteed a lightning lane even if a better one doesn't pop up. But we can say a better one is almost always going to pop up. You can do this at any time of day with any of your lightning lanes, so always keep checking those better times. Do not get tricked by lightning lanes that end early. A great example of this is Beauty and the Beast live on stage. Some shows only have one lightning lane window per show, and it's only 15 minutes long. Another great example of a tricked lightning lane is Kilimanjaro Safaris. This ride closes earlier than the rest of the park, so sometimes times for that ride might fill up a lot faster than you think they will. You can book a lightning lane, individual lightning lane, and a virtual queue all at the same time if you have 3 pairs of hands and 3 My Disney Experience apps. So the Guardians virtual queue is something that you do have to join for free on your phone on the day of your Epcot visit. Currently, you cannot ride Guardians without that virtual queue, and soon that will switch over to Tron Light Cycle Run in Magic Kingdom. So if you have 3 hands and 3 My Disney Experience apps, you can grab your first lightning lane of the day, your first individual lightning lane of the day, and a virtual queue spot all at the same time, especially if you're a resort guest. If you assign each person a different priority, such as the lightning lane, individual lightning lane, and virtual queue, that will allow you to grab all three at once as long as you're all connected on the My Disney Experience app together. You can do this whether you're linked or even if you're using logins to one account, although we recommend that everyone sets up their own My Disney Experience ahead of the trip and get linked up. It's a lot easier that way. If you're not able to do this, you'll probably want to prioritize that virtual queue and then your Genie Plus lightning lane and then your individual, but you'll need to move as fast as you can. In other parks without virtual queues, you need to prioritize your Genie Plus booking over your individual lightning lane and then move as fast as you can to grab both. Use Genie Plus pricing as a clue to see how busy the day is going to be. Though it's mostly negative that Genie Plus now has a date-based surge pricing aspect, you can use it to kind of gauge an idea of crowd levels. Starting at midnight the night before, you can see how much Genie Plus is going to be, which gives an indication of how Disney expects the parks to be. $15 is a slow day, but $20 plus is a busy day. Remember, the Genie Plus price is the same across all 4 parks, and some parks might be busier than others. You can scan in 5 minutes early for your lightning lane. This can be incredibly helpful if you aren't utilizing that full 2-hour cooldown window, so that way you can book a new lightning lane 5 minutes earlier than you would have. Start your day in a park that doesn't need Genie Plus and stack lightning lanes in the afternoon. Though you can usually only have 1 lightning lane at a time, you are able to hold multiple if you wait through your 2-hour cooldowns after booking each time. Quincy did this during our Hollywood Studios Genie Plus experiment and ended up with a tower, rock and roller coaster, and Mickey Minnie Runaway Railway, all from 3:30 to 4:30. Prioritize the hardest to get lightning lanes in each park. For Epcot, that's Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. For Magic Kingdom, that's Jungle Cruise. For Hollywood Studios, that's Slinky Dog Dash. And for Animal Kingdom, that's the Navi River Journey. The hardest lightning lane reservations to get might not even be the most popular ride necessarily, but in the case of Jungle Cruise, they can accommodate fewer people per hour than other popular rides, so Jungle Cruise is a lot harder to grab. Finally, you can use Genie Plus without having to have your eyes glued to your phone all day. If you use it when you need it, but not necessarily to skip as many lines as possible, then you're going to be okay. Some lines you are not going to need that Genie Plus lightning lane, and some lines you're really going to need it. Don't be afraid to trigger the 2-hour cooldown. You can fill that 2 hours with food, filler rides, and shows. The best way to use Genie Plus, in our opinion, is alongside a good park strategy for a great day. That's how we use it during our Best Day Ever video series, so if you're curious about that, you can go check out any of those videos. If you want to see any of these tips in action and how we use them personally, you can be sure to check out our full 15 sneaky Genie Plus secrets video that's up on the channel right now, where you can even see 5 more of our sneakiest Genie Plus secrets. Overall, my thoughts about Genie Plus are pretty much the same, except I'm surprised that they've not charged us for this system sooner. It's annoying that they're charging for it, but when you break it down, you kind of understand why they are, even if you don't like it that much. I also think that Genie Plus is kind of getting to the point where it's a little bit like FastPass Plus used to be. If you know how to use the system, you're gonna love it and you're gonna be great at it. But if you don't, you might get left behind and not be able to get those lightning lanes that you want, especially because you might not know until the day of. I will say, all of this to be said, my main takeaway is that Genie Plus is here to stay for at least a little while. We had a variation of FastPass from 1999 until 2021. So I think Genie Plus might be with us for the long haul, but luckily you have people like us at AllEars that are gonna help you learn how to use it. Shameless plug, because that's our jobs. We want to help you guys know how to use it. That's what we do every single day, is figure out Genie Plus and give you the best strategies for those.
All right, so we're back. So here we are, we're finally to the meat of this, to why you're watching. Why did Genie Plus happen? Well, first, after FastPass started, when the FastPass and FastPass Plus rumors started to swirl, the first main concern that guests had, and the biggest rumor, was that it would be a paid-for service. While we can tell now, years later, even after FastPass Plus has been here and gone, that didn't happen, we can also tell that based on that rumor, it was something Disney did at one point at least consider, or was in their minds, even way back in the 90s, early 2000s, and way before Genie Plus. FastPass and the demand for FastPass Plus grew so crazy over time that eventually it just became a kind of a monster of its own. That meant the people that knew how to use the service absolutely loved and adored it. But if you didn't know how to use it, you kind of got left behind ending up that you didn't like the service because frankly you kind of got left out of being able to use the service at all. A lot of times big rides like Flight of Passage, Navi River Journey, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and others would even have their FastPass availability gone 60 days before your trip even started. So then that meant people who didn't necessarily know as early as 60 days might get left out of all of those big rides. When COVID-19 hit, Disney decided to use this as an opportunity during the park closures to reinvent FastPass Plus while guests weren't actively using it. The closures gave Disney plenty of time to work with the new system and focus on the issues without guests seeing the replacement immediately. When FastPass and FastPass Plus first launched, guests were able to find a lot of loopholes that allowed them to maximize their FastPasses each day, so that way Disney could fix this during the closures without kind of having that issue. Disney's main solution to making sure that all guests had equal access to their Skip the Line service was to make it a day of service and not an advanced service, so that way you could learn about a day of and still be able to grab some of the opportunities. And Genie Plus, just like FastPass Plus, also serves as a way to move people throughout the parks and focus on crowd control. But this still leaves the burning question, why is Genie Plus a paid-for service when FastPass and FastPass Plus were not? So just like any company, Disney is a seeking profit company. Disney CFO Christy McCarthy said that guest per capita spending in the parks increased 40% since 2019, and she attributed it to things that she called premium offerings like Genie Plus and individual lightning lanes. But not only all of that, just like FastPass Plus, Genie Plus had grown so popular that the product started working in ways that it shouldn't, like increasing crowds in the lightning lanes, which made it so that Genie Plus had stopped being worth the money for a lot of people. So all of this to be said, Disney raised prices again for Genie Plus, and that's when they added date-based pricing. Raising the pricing means that fewer people are going to purchase Genie Plus, which will make it work more closely to the way that it was intended to work. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Now go to watch our 15 sneakiest Genie Plus secrets over on the channel.